Hello, Joe.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. So, Joseph MaCullough, no stranger to War Games Illustrated videos, because you've written other things, haven't you?
I've written a few now.
Yeah. So we're talking about Oathmark today, but of course your background is you did work for Osprey in the past. So you produced Frostgrave and
Yeah. I've written Frostgrave and Ghost Archipelago as a freelancer. I still work for Osprey, and this is a for Osprey project. This is what I've been working on for the last couple of years with Osprey.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
So this is a big battle game.
Yeah, it's a traditional kind of big units, rank and flank style game where you control an army and move the figures around as big units.
And of course we're talking about fantasy here, aren't we?
We are indeed. A kind of classic, more traditional take on fantasy with your elves and your dwarves and your goblins and humans as kind of your main factions, although there are other monsters. I suppose one of the differences between this game and ones in the past is that armies aren't necessarily organized by race. So it's perfectly legal to have an army that's composed of humans and dwarves, or humans and elves, or all of them.
Yeah, we've noticed that. That's weird. Why have you done that?
Mainly I did that because whenever I play a game, I want as much freedom as possible to create the army that I actually want to play. And while a lot of people probably will want to create an elven army and play it, and that's fine, the game can handle that, I didn't see any necessary reason why you couldn't have humans backed up by goblin wolf riders. And that played into the whole idea of I wanted to take your traditional kind of mass battle game, but bring a more narrative element to it. And the first way I did that was the first thing you do when you start off playing Oathmark is you create your kingdom. So you choose your capital city and you choose the territory that kind of surrounds that. And it's via that territory and that you have in your kingdom, you know which units you can recruit into an army. So if you have an orc capital city, obviously you can get a bunch of orc units, but then if you have certain types that allow you to get dwarves, you can also bring in some units of dwarves. And all that gives you, I think, a greater attachment to your army and to the story behind your army.
And that's an important thing for you. It's not just about one-off battles. Then does this sort of lead into campaign?
Yeah. So the great thing about that campaign, about that kingdom, is it can link directly into the campaign. So as you and a friend or you and a group of friends are battling it out, the territories in your campaign become relevant not only for what units you can draw from it, but kind of how the campaign is playing out. So you can occupy enemy territory. That won't actually stop you from fielding units, but it may cause the units to be slightly less powerful. But also you can gain territory through playing, so that as you play more games, you can expand your army, not just in terms of how many figures you have, but what units you bring. So, you know, if you create your kingdom and you play a few games and you think, gosh, I'd really like to have some elven cavalry, the next time I win a specific battle, I'm going to try to add the territory that lets me get elven cavalry. So that next time, the time I play after that, I can try out a unit of elven cavalry. So yeah, you get this narrative unfolds of how your war goes with the other kingdoms, and is your kingdom expanding or is it contracting? And you can play to a natural conclusion of, if you conquer someone's capital city, then you have won the campaign.
I see. And what sort of period are we within the sort of fantasy genre? Because I noticed there's no black powder weapons, and you even mentioned there's no crossbows.
Yep, there's no black powder, there's no crossbows. So I mean, obviously it's a fantasy era, so it doesn't specifically link to any historical period. But you're probably looking at a more dark age than you are kind of high middle ages. So yeah, everybody's using bow as their main missile weapon, and
so there's no knights in shiny armor.
There's no kind of full-on plate mail. The elves and dwarves, who are a little more technologically advanced, or at least better craftsmen, have kind of heavier armor. But in general, you're looking at chainmail and a lot of leather. A little toned down from some of the kind of high medieval fantasy you see a lot of.
Yeah. So if I was looking to get started playing Oathmark, there's a lot of lovely box sets available from Osprey and North Star, obviously, and they how many figures do you get in a box set?
So your infantry boxes will have 30 figures in them, and that's irrespective of race. So 30 elves, 30 humans, 30 dwarves. The cavalry ones, which the Goblin Wolf Riders are the first up, they'll have 15. And one of the kind of briefs of the game, one of the design concepts was that you would be able to play with one box. So while those boxes aren't necessarily equal, 30 goblins are nowhere near as powerful as 30 elves. If you had a box of humans and I had a box of dwarves, we could certainly set up a game with just those figures. Obviously, you're probably not going to want to play at that small scale too long, but you can at least get started with that one box, give it a try, and expand it as you're playing the game. So yeah, so that's your small starter game. By the time you're getting to what we considered a real game, a real big battle, you're looking at about 8 units per side, and a unit can be anything from 5 guys to 20 most of the time, if you're talking infantry.
Okay. Do you know how that's going to expand? Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen some of the sort of what you might call the core races, like the goblins and the elves and the dwarves. Do you know what that's going to expand into for the
Yeah, so right now we're still working on bringing out box sets for kind of each of those core races. I should say that there are orcs and there are goblins. They are similar but separate races. The orcs are bigger, and we haven't seen them yet, so they're coming soon. But the first step is to expand and have 2 or 3 boxes for each of those races. So the goblins already have goblin infantry and goblin wolf riders. The elves have their kind of standard soldiers, and they're going to get their path guards, which are kind of the lighter, more rangery types. The dwarves already have standard infantry and heavy infantry, and we'll be looking to do a 3rd box for each of those. The other thing I should mention is we try to do each of the boxes, so like human infantry, you can equip them all as sword and shield or sword and spear guys, or as archers. So a good box will give you a unit of spearmen, a unit of swordsmen, and a unit of archers. Once we've gotten past that kind of starting core for each of those, we'll be doing some undead, which will come out, the rules for one of the later supplements. But right now we want to focus on this, and that we have the plastic box sets. We also have some metal miniatures for your more kind of heroes and champions, and for some of your monsters as well. We'll be having those.
What about monsters? Are they going to be like the archetypal stuff? Are we going to get ogres and giants and trolls?
You are going to have ogres, giants, and trolls, and dragons. There's also going to be, there are some more. So all of the monsters in the game are drawn from European mythology, but you have some that perhaps aren't as common to an English-speaking audience. Things like Indrix, some Eastern European things, like a big kind of woolly rhinoceros is one, and some things like the Bodak, which you don't normally see, which is kind of a trickster fairy, but allows you to do a lot more magical things, and the Buggane, which is kind of an ogre magic user. So you will have the traditional ones. You will also have some that they're traditional in a mythological sense, perhaps not quite as common on the tabletop, but it's kind of, for me, it's exciting to get some of that mythology that hasn't been used so much in fantasy gaming into the game.
Okay, and speaking of magic, so we've got magic users, we've got spellcasters. Is it the sort of fireballs and lightning bolts and that kind of stuff?
Both. I mean, so all of the races can produce magic users. Even the dwarves have their wizards. Some of them are better at it slightly than others, but they can all do it. And so there's several spell lists in the game. There's a general spell list which anyone can draw their spells from. So a dwarf mage and an orc mage can both draw spells from the general list. And then each race also has its own unique spell list. So dwarven spellcasters have certain spells that only they can have. And so on the general spell list, you do have fireball and things like that. But you also have a lot of both unit buffing and kind of board manipulation. One that's been quite popular in some of the early games we played is the Stolen March spell, which basically allows you to give a unit a free move essentially. So it's really useful for getting that flank attack or getting that unit up there early in the battle.
Okay. Thanks very much. That's been a very good introduction to Oathmark. We're going to leave it there because we've got another video to do.
Alrighty.
Because we're then going to start looking at some of the mechanics of the game. So this has been about the design philosophy. Now let's have a look at the mechanics of the game and see how it works on the table. Thanks very much, Joe.
Thank you.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.